Hello friends, for today's video I'm going to be doing the mid-year book tag, but I'm going to be tweaking it slightly so it is the mid-year story tag because I like more than just books for my stories. I like manga, comics, video games, shows, etc. And that is what this channel is all about. If you don't really follow book channels and you've somehow discovered this channel separate from my main channel, a lot of times people do the mid-year book tag as a way to capture a lot of their thoughts for the standouts of the year so far. It's kind of a recap basically. And so that's why I wanted to apply that same thing for this channel. And I'm just gonna jump right into it. The first one typically is the best book. So similarly to the title, I'm changing it to the best story of the year so far for me. So there's a couple things that I rewatched and replayed, and I'm gonna go ahead and mention those because they're still amazing, and that would be Arcane, which is perfect, and Elden Ring, which has some things that drive me up a wall, but ultimately is amazing. So those two have been great. Elden Ring was so fun, as I've said so many times. It was so fun to go back and play it again, but I just played it with my husband, so he was playing it for the first time, and then I was tagging along with him, and it made the playing experience way easier for him than it was for most of us. And it was really funny because the few times that I wasn't there, he was like he was very upset at the game. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it's like most of the time. Anyway, besides that, some manga I've read this year has been exceptional. I haven't sadly gotten as into Golden Kamuy as I want. The first chunk of Golden Kamuy was very good, so I'm excited to keep going. But if I'm going to say for everything that's out that I've completed of a story, Witch Hat, I've read all the first 10 volumes. There it is right there. Amazing. It gets better and better as it goes, so that makes me very excited for the next volume that we'll eventually get. And then Vagabond. It took me a while, I'm not gonna lie. I think that's part of it though, is the payoff is so good. It makes everything all the more meaningful, but it does mean you're kind of dragging your feet for a while. Second question, the best sequel. And specifically, I just talked about how good Witch Hat was and Vagabond. So we have the bind-ups of Vagabond. Bind-up 11 was so good in my opinion. It was not only great with the storytelling, not only great with finally seeing that moment where everything is starting to settle and our main character's finally starting to grow, but also the art. I think it has some of my favorite panels. It's all the art in Vagabond is great, but that bind up in particular, it was just page after page, panel after panel of beautiful art. Same thing can be said of Witch Hat. Witch Hat's art is remarkably beautiful as well. It's much more whimsical than in Vagabond. Vagabond is much more centered in realism, whereas Witch Hat, it's so whimsical is just the best way to describe it. I was going to try to describe it in a different way, but I don't need to. Whimsical. It's beautiful art. And volume 10 is so good. And I said in answering the first question, it gets better and better. And volume 10 is, in my opinion, the best volume. I have no idea where the story is going to go. This story has the potential to have some of the most meaningful, impactful themes. We're already hinting at it. We've already got some of it. It's exceptional. I can't wait to read more Witch Hat. So those are the best sequels. Next up, we have a new release that you haven't read yet but want to, or something new that you haven't gotten around to yet but want to. I guess Zelda. I don't know if there's too many new releases that I haven't gotten around to yet. So I'll go ahead and say Zelda. By the way, I really like Spy Family. You can add that to the first question too, and I guess you could say any volume is a good sequel for the second question, but for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and say Zelda. I'm just nervous because I really didn't like the weapons from what I saw of the first one where they would break all the time, so it makes me nervous to play the new Zelda. I'm afraid I would just get frustrated with it. So question 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Obviously, the next Witch Hat. Obviously, the next Spy Family. But June is the month Final Fantasy 16 finally comes out, and we have not gotten a new main installment since 15, and we need something to cleanse that because it was just okay, but it obviously wasn't as good as it could have been, and I'm so ready. This is my reaction every time I start talking about Final Fantasy 16, so I'm gonna calm down. I'm very excited for Final Fantasy 16 though. I can't wait. I was like, do I bulk film a lot and I try to read a bunch leading up to the release so I can just take a week off and play it nonstop. That's kind of what I want to do. I don't know, I might still do that. Question 5 is the biggest disappointment. I think Solo Leveling. I really thought I was going to really enjoy Solo Leveling, and I read a bit of it, and it kept not giving me anything more than solo leveling up by yourself, and then fighting something cool and being totally overpowered, but looking cool while doing it. And the art was cool, and it's in color, so it was visually appealing. And it would make a great video game, and I think it could be a kind of fun show, but I was hoping for a little bit more story to go with it. Silver Spoon, just because I love Full Metal so much, I think I was hoping for a little more with it, but I didn't read that much of it, and I said when I mentioned that I probably wouldn't be continuing on anytime soon, that I'm not opposed to picking it back up in the future, just not currently, but I was hoping to fall in love with it immediately, just because I love, like I said, Full Metal so much. Question 6, the biggest surprise. I think because it took me a while to get into Vagabond, that when I finally came around to it, I was kind of surprised at how much of a turn my emotions had. I think Girl from the Other Side really surprised me because I was reading Witch Hat when my husband was reading Girl from the Other Side. And when he was reading that one, he thought, I think I'm reading the better of the two manga. And I was reading Witch Hat, and I didn't have such a thought. But when he started to read Witch Hat Atelier, when he started to read that and I started to read Girl from the Other Side, he thought, never mind, Witch Hat is better. And because he told me that, I ended up having the expectation that Girl from the Other Side wouldn't be that good, or it would just be okay. And then I was like, what the heck? This is so good. So Girl from the Other Side, I can't talk today, sorry. I've been talking a lot because I've been filming, and that's why. But Girl from the Other Side is very good. And Golden Kamuy, I knew I was probably going to like it. I just wasn't expecting to like it so much. So it surprised me in a good way. I love it a lot, but oh, I feel bad for so many of the animals. It makes me, they're so cute. The baby bear. Oh my gosh. Anyway, question 7 is newest favorite writer. And I guess I'll have to go with Witch Hat, because when discussing it in depth with my friend Patrick and my husband, I was saying that I don't know that she can ruin it. It's so good already, and there's so much she can do with it. And that's really impressive, that I'm basically like, do whatever, I'll follow you, because I'm liking all of it. So I guess Witch Hat Atelier, I would read anything else that they put out. Number 8, newest fictional crush. So this isn't new, but probably my biggest fictional crush I think ever is Vi from Arcane. And I rewatched Arcane, so it just reaffirmed my love for her. Lloyd Forgers, I like him a lot. But I don't know, I'm not really the kind of person that's like, oh my gosh, over the characters, except for Vi. I really love Vi a lot. So I guess Vi and Lloyd Forger. What are yours? I would love to know your answers to all of these, but is there somebody I'm missing out on? Anyway, question 9, new favorite character. This is tough because there's so many well-written characters, but I think I'm gonna go with Kifri, also from Witch Hat Atelier, just because he's so compelling and interesting, and he seems so sweet and so nice, but you're like, there's some darkness in his past, and some of the decisions he makes are very mysterious. So he's one of the most interesting characters I think I've ever come across, where I love him and I adore him, and I also don't know if I should. It's hard to accomplish that. Something that made you cry. Okay. I did a scene analysis for a scene in Arcane, and it was hard to even make that video because rewatching that scene, I wanted to cry. Even thinking about it makes me want to cry. And then there's another scene that I did not do a scene analysis for, but you all know if you've watched Arcane, I don't have to give specifics. Let's just say a certain fight on a certain bridge is so emotional that my mom hadn't seen Arcane, and I watched it with her, and I had to be like, I gotta go get a drink really quick, and I got up to get some water or something because I was like, I don't want to cry in front of my mom right now. And I could still see the TV, so I kept having to kind of look away, and oh my gosh, it's so emotional. And then, kind of surprisingly, a very, very early arc of Vagabond with a character named Inshin. I don't know what it was about that, but I almost started crying. That character, the way they were written, the way their story was written, when you finally find out what happened in their past, I was pretty close, but I haven't actually cried. I don't typically cry when I read or watch TV, mostly because I bottle all that up. I don't like exposing my emotions, my deeper emotions. So anyway, 11, something that made me happy. Spy Family. Spy Family is adorable and it's so fun and just is the best thing for putting you in a good mood. So I wish we had 20 more volumes or 50 more volumes, because it would absolutely be the thing I would pick up anytime I need something to make me happy. And the next thing is favorite adaptation. So I guess technically Arcane is an adaptation, but we're going to stop saying Arcane. I'll go ahead and say Shadow and Bone, season 2. I know I had mixed feelings. I know a lot of people had mixed feelings. I know some people had some pretty negative feelings. But aside from some things they did at the end, for the most part, I thought it was quite good. And it's cheesy in moments, but it is a younger show. So the cheesiness kind of didn't bother me all that much. I guess Howl's Moving Castle, the reason I didn't answer that first though is because I've never read the book. But I watched the movie and it was so charmingly weird and I really liked it. So Howl's Moving Castle, I guess I'll say for the answer. 13, favorite. Oh, this one is interesting because when I was looking up the questions for this as a reminder, I actually saw it on a post, someone's blog, and they had it as favorite post of theirs. So for this version, I'm going to say favorite video, and I really, really, really enjoyed doing that scene analysis. I had a lot of fun with it. I liked going through the music of it and kind of comparing the music from these two different scenes and how they relate to each other and how they differ based off of what's going on, and just the visuals and comparing that. I had a lot of fun with that. I really enjoyed that. And then all the discussions that I've done, I know a lot of them are spoilery, so it's not as accessible, but I still really enjoy doing those. I really like chatting through with my friends a lot of the stories that we really enjoy, or sometimes we have mixed feelings on. I just enjoy having those conversations. You kind of can get to a deeper level with what you're discussing when you're able to get into spoilers like that. The next one, question 14, most beautiful book, in this case manga or comic, purchased. I gotta say the Girl from the Other Side editions, the hardcovers are so pretty. So they're gorgeous. And then last, something that you really need to get around to by the end of the year. Comics. I have not picked comics up and I need to, because that's a big thing for me this year. And part of why I started this channel was to really push myself to make sure I made time for a lot of these other stories that I do enjoy. Because I do my main channel as a job, it does mean that I can get very sucked into reading books constantly. And I like manga. Luna has something to say too. I like manga, I like comics, and I love video games. And I just think there's so many other great stories to consume in other mediums that I wanted this. Luna barking kind of threw me off, sorry. I wanted this channel to help push me. So comics. I need to get around to comics. But anyway, that's it for the mid-year story tag. Let me know what your answers to these would be. Let me know your thoughts on any of the things I mentioned. And then do you have any recommendations? Because I would love to know. A lot of you are much better. You're well-versed, much more well-versed. That's what I'm trying to, you know more than me is what I'm trying to say. So if you have any recommendations, feel free to leave them. But thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and I'll see you later. Bye.